Tony, I think we're going to go ahead and start. Thanks very much. We're going to go ahead and begin with a prayer from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. So if you'd like to join in, you're welcome to. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, and open our hearts, minds, and souls to your presence. Grace us with the strength to follow the examples of Jesus. Like Jesus, may the Spirit provide us with a voice to cry out for justice for the poor. Remind us that what we do to the least of these among us, we do to you. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. That prayer seemed especially appropriate to me, given the two organizations represented here by our two presenters. Sarah Dittner is with Transitions DMC in Burlington, Iowa, and Mary Margaret Butler is with Whatsoever You Do, which is based in Ottumwa. And they're here today to share with us information about their organizations. Both of those organizations are grassroots nonprofits that began when there was someone who saw a need in their community. And that's a really powerful thing, to be that observant, and then to not only step beyond seeing the need, but assessing what could be done and helping to grow an organization to address a specific issue. So I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. Sarah, if you'd like to share your information first, that would be great. And then Mary Margaret, you can go after Sarah's finished.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Sarah. So I am the CEO and director of Transitions DMC here in Burlington. Kind of been around almost since the beginning, but not the whole time. I kind of came in and left and came back. I also have sitting in the background that you can't see, Craig Fenton. Some of you may know Craig.
Hi, Mary Margaret.
So Craig Fenton is our founder. So it really struck me when you were just talking about someone seeing a need and kind of stepping up to help fill that gap, which is what Craig did. He's a very humble man, but it always sticks with me that he says, I thought somebody should do something about that. And I realized that somebody was me. And really that's what we're here to do. We're here to fill a need. We're here to do everything we can to help people. So what we do is we provide homeless services. So a little bit of history besides the founder. We officially Transitions DMC started in January of 2016. So we just reached our 6-year anniversary. The first things that we were doing were kind of took on the backpack program. And I say we, but I wasn't actually involved in that aspect of it. But we'll say we in the group sense. So there was a backpack program. Transitions was delivering food to the schools with the help of a few volunteers. Craig was driving. He had some guys helping him with the lifting. And then all of a sudden, we realized there was a space needed for the donated furniture. There were a lot of people in our community that wanted to donate furniture to people who didn't have anything. And so Transitions kind of stepped in to fill that gap by picking up and then delivering furniture for people who wanted to donate into the hands of people who had nothing. And so we did that for quite a few years. In fact, we get multiple calls a day still asking for that program. Unfortunately, we had to discontinue that because as we were constructing the shelter, we lost that storage space and with fire codes and that kind of thing. So we don't do that anymore. But that was a big mission we had for a long time, and we helped a lot of people. Off the top of my head, I don't remember those statistics. I apologize.
$500,000.
Probably over $500,000 in value furniture. A lot of things were donated by some of the hotels when they renovated. A lot of individuals, some businesses. It was a really cool project to be a part of. The backpack program has since been taken over by Linda Paw Pantry. Sorry. Linda Paw Pantry has now taken over the backpack program. So we're focused on this emergency shelter. Because that was always the goal, was to help homeless people with housing and other needs that they have. Bridges Out of Poverty came into our community, and that's actually how I met Craig. We both attended that training, and I had been working at the Salvation Army here in Burlington as an emergency services coordinator and did their Pathway of Hope program. And the biggest struggle for me was not having anywhere to send people who had nowhere to go. I had families. One particular stands out in my mind. 5 kids, little kids. They were living in an RV. And then the RV had to be moved because it was on a rental property. And so they were in a campground. And there just wasn't anywhere in our community that could really help this group. We have a homeless shelter, but the size of their family, the extent of their need, they weren't able to fill that need. And I kept thinking there has to be something that can be done about this situation. And then lo and behold, I get an email from this guy I've never heard of before. It sounded pretty ambitious goal. And I thought, I need to be part of that. So we met, I joined the board, and we fast forward to today. So it's been a journey for us. We've had a lot of lessons learned. In fact, I believe we just learned a couple more lessons this morning. So we're learning a whole lot even as we go. We've been around for 6 years, but the emergency shelter has only been open since January 20th of this year, 2022. So that is, what did I say? That was 14 days, 13 to 14 days off the top of my head. But prior to that, we were housing off-site. We were helping with rent assistance. We were helping with utilities, deposits, things like that, as funds allowed, and constructing this emergency homeless shelter. So the building was purchased and donated for our use, and we are paying that generous loan back. It's a very good terms on that loan. So we've been renovating it as we go. We took this building that was formerly a dairy, and then it was a light industrial, and then it was a pawn shop. And so now it's a homeless shelter, all new inside. Basically it was a shell of a building, new drywall, new floors, new everything, donated labor, donated material. And then some funds were donated, and all of that went towards this construction, all while still helping some folks. We participated in the COVID, ESG COVID grant, and we're able to house people in hotel rooms. We had a house that we were using for a while, had an apartment building. We have now kind of reined everything back in to just work from this one location. So we've got a 13-bed, state-of-the-art, handicap accessible emergency shelter. The one thing we don't have quite yet, we kind of learned belatedly that we need to have a commercial grade range hood in our kitchen in order to use a stove and oven. Sorry, I'm hearing a ringing. I don't know where it's coming from. Those, as most of you probably know, are very expensive and require a lot of installation and labor. I think it might be. She said if anything would make sense. Oh, sorry about that. That's the trouble with Zoom meetings, is that there's always something going on in the background. So anyway, we're still working on finishing our kitchen, and we operate with microwaves and crock pots, and we're using meal train for people to donate meals in the evening, and then kind of figure out what we've got to take care of lunch and breakfast. So we have, like I said, we have 13 beds. We have been, we've had men, women, children, the whole gamut in and out of here. Our high number is 13. That's our capacity. And there have been nights where we've had to turn a few folks away because we can't exceed that number. Our lowest number has been 7, and we're averaging about 9 a night. Sorry, I'm checking my notes to make sure I say everything I want to include on that. We do prioritize based on vulnerability and need. Someone who has been sleeping outside has a higher priority number than someone who, say, has been staying at a friend's house. And we base that on the HUD guidelines because we do receive HUD funding. But I'll go into that kind of here in a minute. Our maximum is 30 days. We are flexible on that. Say someone's got a place lined up, but they can't get into it until say their 34th day. You know, we'll let you stay a couple of extra days, you know, provided things have been going according to plan. If you've got folks that are just sitting back, kind of riding the wave, not really trying to improve their situation, that 30 days is going to be a hard deadline. So we have a case manager right now, a volunteer position. She is working with people on getting IDs if they don't have them, employment, finding apartments, filling out applications for low rent housing and things like that. We've even had some people who have a house now but need appliances, and so there's all kinds of different things that just kind of pop up that are involved in that housing process that we try to help with as we can. So our funding sources, we get a little bit of HUD funding. We get a lot of donations from the community and some corporate grants. I would have to say that our biggest source of donation and grant funding has come from various Catholic organizations, it's been amazing. And being raised a Protestant, I am touched by the Catholic community in this area and how giving and so generous. Here we go again, another surprise. But yeah, so I just thank you, especially to the Davenport Diocese and all the organizations involved in this area. The generosity is very touching, and thank you very, very much. So our future, what we're looking for. We just achieved our biggest goal so far, which was opening this emergency shelter for 24-hour services. And going forward, we're working with the city of Burlington and West Burlington and Des Moines County to kind of increase our funding, maybe get some support from those entities and work out a 28E agreement where we know their expectations, they know ours, and we're working together to sustain this project for the long term and really turn it into a long-term resource, possibly to take people further than maybe the 28 days. We have a second story that is unfinished. We might be able to do some apartments and do maybe some transitional housing or some rentals or something in the future. So we will be seeking some of the rehab grant funding for those kinds of projects. But that's down the road a little ways. We're still working on some of our policies and procedures, and okay, well, that's not working, so we're going to change it and we're going to do something different. That kind of happens almost every day around here. We are low barrier, so we're taking everybody. You know, we don't turn away because you're a drug user or you came in stinking drunk. If you're following the rules, if you're not causing any kind of disturbances, aggressive behavior, things like that, you can be here. Only requirement, you have to be homeless, and we'll do everything we can to help people get where they need to be and sustain their living. Just getting somebody into an apartment isn't necessarily the end of the road for that. So that's why we have that case manager, that case manager who's going to work with them and carry that process out. But we'd really like to see people in permanent housing that they own themselves. So that's really our long-term goal, is to see programs like that flourish in this area. Did you have anything you want to add? Okay.
Well, the reason we're on this call is because I'm Catholic. And so we do have a invitation out to Bishop Zinkula, and I think he's going to come down and bless the building. And we pretty much have received grant funds from about every Catholic organization in the diocese between Davenport and down here in Burlington. So, like she said, it's been humbling.
I think that people must feel good knowing that they're supporting an organization that obviously has its heart in the right place and is putting life and dignity of people first and foremost. So thank you for sharing that with us. So Mary Margaret, it's your turn to jump
Hi.
in.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm Mary Margaret Butler. I'm from Ottumwa, Iowa. I have lived here all my life. Let me see how I can. First of all, I want to congratulate Transitions for what they've done and for the shelter being open. I think that's absolutely wonderful, and I know they've been working so hard to get that done, and I think it's just wonderful. The way we started was about 11 years ago. I met with a friend, and we were sitting in a restaurant, and we were talking about how much time we wasted on Facebook. So we thought, why don't we do something that will, hold on just one second here. I'm timing myself so I don't go over because I ramble. So what we did, we decided that we'd stick a group on Facebook, and what we would do is similar to what Transitions did at the beginning, where we were helping with food, clothing, shelter needs people needed to survive. And it was like it's a network where people would ask for stuff, and then we would research it and we'd help them. We'd connect people. And so that started 11 years ago. And it just, the minute we put it out there, it just boomed. We had 80 members the first day, and now we have close to I'm pretty sure we're over 6,000 right now, and we have it in three different counties. It's the other counties are just mainly touching base with people, connecting. Ottumwa, the Wapello County is actually really a lot. We do a lot more than the other counties. We're kind of the main one right now. So what we did was we started that, and then it started booming. And then as we were going forward, it was basically me, myself, and my husband that were doing a lot of the work, delivering things, picking things up, helping people. It was just mainly us with our truck. And then we started gaining more and more people, volunteers helping us, and it was getting a little bit bigger. And we saw and met a lot of people, helped a lot of people. Same as Transitions, we did tons of furniture. We helped a lot of people in that aspect and things. But then when it came to homeless, about 6 years into it, I came across a gentleman over at the park, and he started talking to me, and he'd been sitting on one of the picnic tables. He had his shoes off. And as I got into the discussion with him, I found out that he'd been homeless for 2 years. He'd been living behind our old Kentucky Fried Chicken in Ottumwa. He didn't have any skin on the bottom of his feet. It was blistered, bleeding really bad. He was wearing women's Kotexes in his shoes to soak up the blood and the infection. And he'd been walking. He was an alcoholic, and it hit me. It just made me sick. I was like, there's no excuse for this. I mean, this is a large town. This is a large community. There's no excuse for someone to live like this and not to be able to get the help that they need. So we helped him. We got him a tent. We went around, took him to get his food stamps, did all the things that he needs to survive, to get going. And he finally was able to rise up. And he has an apartment now. He lives in Des Moines. He's got a good job. But that was what opened my eyes to see the homeless. And then what I did was I prayed really hard about it, and God seemed to open up the door. I kind of felt like I had Jesus goggles on. I started seeing more and more homeless people. They started to come to us, and we just got bombed. We got bombed with homeless people needing help. We were in the same situation where we couldn't find anywhere to put them. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know where to send them. We were sending some people, and we still do, up to Des Moines to the shelters, but it was ridiculous that we were taking all people that we could be helping and sending them up to Des Moines and laying them on someone else to do. So we decided that let's start small. Let's look into getting these people housed, especially in the wintertime, because here in Ottumwa, there is nowhere for anybody to go at nighttime. Nothing. Everything closes. There's nowhere. And I was coming across women in cars with their children freezing to death. I mean, that was nonstop all the time. So what we did was we started renting apartments, and one apartment every year. It was really tough because trying to find someone that would let us actually rent an apartment to put homeless people in. And then when it was all men, my husband would stay there. When it was all women, I would stay there. And then when it was men and women, I would stay there we both would be there. And we did that for 3 or 4 years. And it got to be really tough trying to find a place every year. And it was a lot of money going out. And then we started getting, what really happened was that we started getting a lot of children. And this was tough because DHS doesn't want us putting children in with homeless men. So we knew we had to do something different. So we started looking for a place, and we found the East End Presbyterian Church, which is over on the east end of town. It's a large church. It was closed for a couple years and no one was buying it. It'd been for sale for a long time. And I walked in there and my heart just, I knew that was home. I knew this was going to be the place immediately. I actually knew where everything was going to go right on the spot. So we worked with the East End Presbyterian Church, the Presbyterian Diocese in Des Moines, trying to get shelter for a good cost. And it was, they wanted, 15,000-20,000 for it. Had a really bad roof. There was a lot of problems with it, and it was a good structure, but it wasn't, it needed a lot of work. So we finally was able to get the cost down to a penny. So we were able to get it for a penny, which is fantastic. But of course, there was a lot of money going into it. So we got that. And another thing too, we became a nonprofit in 2016. That's when we actually became a nonprofit. And so we were able to, we've been doing grants, many of the local grants, Des Moines grants. We've been doing all that. We're not doing government grants at this time. And we have been able to drop into that shelter close to probably 500 to 600,000 already. And this is all done by donations. We have a good following, donations, groups, churches, and local grants, and just all this together has been helping us to get that going. So we started renovating about 3 years ago. We're doing it on a pay-as-you-go system, so we don't have any bills. When we have the money, when we have the grants, then our contractors start working. And we did have a lot of problems with the COVID situation because everything just kind of shut down. Our construction worker got sick. His people got sick. There's only a couple of them, and they were sick. Volunteers, we didn't have a lot of volunteers because of the COVID situation, the pandemic, and everything kind of stopped. The lumber and materials, as you guys know, just went skyrocket, and we didn't want to spend a lot of our grant money paying a fortune for stuff where we would get a good bang out of it. So we slowed down for, it was about a year, and we have started back up, and things are really moving quick now. We have the basement area is near completion. That has a commercial kitchen, commercial laundry, sleeping area. We're going to use the area for sleeping also where the dining area is. And we hope to be able to open on a small capacity basis here pretty quick this year before winter. And it'll be in the basement lower level. We're also starting on the second level. The second level has the one thing that we're doing a little different than most of the shelters, we're actually doing what they used to do longer period of time ago, was we're not doing single rooms, because we feel in our situation, we're just doing women and children right now. And we feel that in our situation, we're not going to be able to hold as many with single rooms. Plus we have to have a firewall separation around each room, which is a fortune. So what we did was we're doing the old bay areas like we used to do in some of the shelters that some still do, where we're using special pads that they sleep on. And we have one whole bay area for women and kids. We're going to be able to have separators if we want, that we can actually separate it if they want a little bit more privacy. And then we have another level, which we just got in, another level above that, third level, which will be for single women. That way they don't have to be with the women and the kids. We're going to have a full nursery. It's really neat. It's awesome. It's got a big window in it where you could look in to see the babies, and that babies will be separated from the general population. We're going to have a nurse's office. We have volunteer nurses that want to come and help us. Right now, everything that we're doing, other than the construction workers that are doing this, everybody else is volunteer. There's no paid members. All this has been done with volunteers other than construction workers. We have people coming forward wanting to help with all different kinds of things. And when we open on a small capacity basis, we're looking at maybe 2025 in that area down in the basement. And then once we open fully, oh, the sky's the limit. I mean, right now they're saying 75 plus that we can keep in there. Plus now we're also sprinkling underneath the sanctuary, which will be a whole nother area that people can sleep and that we can have people. And we also put water sprinklers that's happening right now in the actual sanctuary itself, which opens up that whole area for people to sleep. So another thing that we're doing is we are going to be the Walpole County's emergency place to go in case of a city emergency, in case of cold weather or very hot weather, any kind of city or county emergency. They're going to be able to come to our shelter. So we're working with the county on that because we don't have any warming or cooling centers, official ones in our county. I mean, it's really bad. And we are not taking the place of the crisis center. We do have a crisis center here in Ottumwa. They do not have walk-in shelter, but they do have like transitional houses. And I'm not sure how Oskaloosa is going right now. They did have a crisis center walk-in. I'm not sure if it's walk-in anymore, but we are working along with the crisis center. We will be able to take care of women that are in non-volatile situations. So we aren't going to be able to take the ones that where someone's coming after them in dangerous situations because we don't want them in with we want to keep our clients safe. So we have to be real careful with that, but we're working with all the organizations in town. We're not trying to repeat anything that anybody else is doing. We are working with them and sending people for clothing. We have a lady that collects clothing for us, and she does that on her own. And then we refer people to her. And so we're just kind of using the whole community. This is the way I guess I want to explain this is not just a WYD thing. This is a community project. And what we're doing, we're getting ready to do a church tour where our members of our group are going to go out. We're going to hit every church. We're going to talk to every single church that we can talk to. We want to be able to get the churches to come together, which is a thing that we need to do in our town. It's something that hasn't happened for a long time. But the way I look at it, we all believe in Jesus. We all believe in helping others. Why can't we get together and actually do this together? So what I want to do is I want to get all the churches together. I want to be able to have churches have their youth groups, have their people that different community groups that they have within their church volunteer, like they'll have a week or a month that they do things. So you're going to be seeing is this is going to be a really big volunteer effort. I've talked to many churches that want to get involved that are really excited about this. And I know it's kind of scary because when you do something like this, you never know what's going to happen. But all I can say is that God has really walked beside us on this. Doors have opened like you would not believe. And I know that he wants this to happen and we're going to make this happen. And please keep us in your prayers.
You can count on that. You can absolutely count on that. Wow, I am so impressed with both organizations, but also just with you, Sarah, and you, Mary Margaret, speaking with us, because it's so obvious how committed you are and the passion you feel for what you're doing and the care for the people that you are working with. They obviously have touched you both as you are also touching their lives. So that is really, really cool to see. I have a question in the chat. Lindsay still wanted to ask, Sarah, you mentioned that you were in need of a stove and I think you said a hood also. And she was asking details on exactly what kind you needed again.
I'm going to turn that over to Craig. That's more in his wheelhouse than mine.
The city is requiring that we have an industrial range hood, and that's generally a much bigger unit that hangs over, well, just think of a restaurant. And so that's really the requirement. They aren't requiring us to do anything with an industrial stove. We probably will, but that isn't a requirement, just the range hood. And I looked online, they can run $3,000 to $4,000. The piping to get the exhaust out is fairly expensive as well. Our one quote that we got 3 years ago was $32,000 installed, which Obviously, that meant we were going to have to wait and open the shelter, well, even later than we are now. So we finally got the city to agree that if we just didn't put in a stove, they would let us open. And so that's what we did. We just didn't put in a stove.
Thanks very much for answering that, and good luck. That is a major undertaking and a lot of money. Loxie just wanted to say, in case you can see the chat box, that she said, thank you so much for the love and vision that made possible for people to have a place to sleep. You are amazing people. And that is one thing I noticed in both of you when you were talking is, and Sarah, I think it was you who said that Craig said something to the effect of, I realized someone had to do something, and I realized that someone was me. And that came through for both of you, that you both saw a need in your communities, and you began to act. Craig began to act, Mary Margaret began to act, Sarah, you were involved already in rehousing people, and you stepped right up. You took a look at what was available in the community and what was lacking, and tried to figure out how best to fill those gaps. And that is, I guess that's one thing I wanted to pass along to everyone, and this will be in the follow-up notes, but there's a program that the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops started called Walking with Moms in Need. And great program. I encourage people to check it out. But one of the resources that they make available is a parish inventory kit. And it's intended for parishes to take a look at their community, to identify the resources that are available, first of all, to make sure they know what's there. And Mary, you said you're not trying to recreate the wheel. You want to work with other community organizations that are already providing services. You just want to augment those and fill in other areas, but that this needs to be a community response, which is absolutely true. And I know that Catholic parishes get approached lots of times for aid and assistance. And so one of the things is to be aware of what is already available in your community. But then they ask, once parishes do that inventory, then they try to identify gaps. What are the results of the assessment and where are the gaps? And then looking at that, can there be a parish response to help fill in those gaps? And the toolkit that's available at the Walking with Moms in Need site is specifically about working with pregnant and new mothers. But that toolkit could be adapted for any justice issue: hunger, housing, mental health. So if your parish is looking at doing anything along those lines, I would suggest checking out that resource. Let's see, I'm trying to see if there are other questions from people that I'm missing. Anybody else have anything they wanted to ask or comments they wanted to make?
If I have one.
Okay.
What are the addresses if people would like to donate to these two groups? What are the address? Who do we make the checks out to? Those kind of things. The addresses.
If Mary, Margaret, and Sarah, if you can do one of two things. You can either type them in the chat if you have that information on hand right now.
Okay.
And post it to everyone, but also I will include that information in the follow-up email that I send out.
Oh, okay.
So if you are here on the phone, don't worry, you'll get the email with the same information in it. It's a great question though. I'm sure that a lot of people may have already been inspired as well to want to provide additional assistance. And then the question about where the kit can be found, I will include the address for that as well in the follow-up email. It's at the Walking with Moms in Need program site, but website addresses are kind of tough to write down as you're saying them, I know, so I'll just include that also in the follow-up email. Okay. Other questions or comments? I will say that one of the other things that struck me when you were talking, Sarah, was your statement that, first of all, that you're low barrier to entry, that the only requirement is being homeless. And so that means that you're working with people who are facing all kinds of challenges, which can make it more challenging for you and for your volunteers. And I also appreciated that you talked about the fact that getting someone housing is not the end of the road. That a lot of times it's definitely a big part of the solution. Having a stable, safe, secure place to live, to keep your belongings, to have your clothing, your medications, that's huge. But a lot of times it takes additional wraparound services. Can you tell us a little bit more about what some of those services might entail, and are they coming from you or are they coming from other community organizations?
Excuse me. Right now they're really coming from other organizations. Wait, did you disagree with me?
Yeah.
Okay, he just disagreed with me. I guess. Yeah, I mean, yes, we are doing a lot of it ourselves, I guess, but. Do you want to answer this question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The biggest issue is that we're seeing here, and that Sarah and the others are taking care of, is that most of our people come in without identification. They come in without the types of things that they need to apply for benefits. So even if they could apply for food stamps or go find a house or something like that, they don't have the documentation they need. And kind of think of it like an illegal alien, in that if you don't have the ID, you don't exist. You can't get a job. You can't do a lot of things. So one of the things that I think everybody has to anticipate if they're going to go this way is that you're going to have to take care of some very basic situations in order to make any impact in the long term. Without those sorts of things, it's going to be tough. Now, what Sarah's talking about is we work with about every organization in town, just like Mary Margaret does. We have dozens of churches donating, people coming in and volunteering in that, and so we try to help people get into some of the federal programs. Those can be kind of difficult because of their requirements. So when we're talking about what we do, we are basically, like Mary Margaret said, working with a bunch of other organizations to meet needs. We're calling hospitals, we're calling psychiatric providers, we're calling and setting up appointments and making sure that people get there, and all those things that are going to be basic to just getting them started again. Otherwise, they're just back out on the street, and that's where we don't want them to be.
I sometimes forget about all this little stuff.
That's it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just know that sometimes I forget about the little stuff that we do all the time. You don't think about it anymore, I guess. It's part of the process, but I think all those little details, as I think Craig and Mary Margaret both indicated, those little things add up to really big aspects of the big picture. So
Anything you care to add to that, Mary Margaret?
I agree totally. I mean, it's like we were saying, this is a community project. I mean, no one person, no one group can do this. And the more that you reach out to everybody in the community and work together, I mean, miracles happen when people all pitch in and help. I mean, when you can get all the organizations working alongside you, it's amazing what can get done. And that's really, really important. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this organization with WID is that we don't take on everything ourselves. We reach out, we say, hey, can you help us? Let's get together. Let's see what we can help you with. Let's see what you can help us with. And it really works. It really does. And I think that's going to be the success of this program.
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely see that. And I like your church tour idea that you're getting ready to do. I think that's brilliant. There's another question. First of all, I thank you, Mary Margaret. I see that she's put the address, and WID is whatsoever you do, just in case anybody was wondering. Another question came in that said, in Ottumwa, we also heard from someone living there that you are also involved in collecting cans to make money. Is that working out? And are there any other such efforts?
Yeah, yes, that's actually a really huge blessing for us. It's a lot of work, let me tell you. And that's something me and my husband do. We do most of that ourselves. And we've got two different places in Ottumwa where they can drop off cans and bottles. And just last year alone, we brought in $36,000 on that. And that was, and what it takes me maybe 4 or 5 times a day, I have to go by there and load the cans out of the things, out of the small trailers into a big horse trailer, and then cart them off 3 times a week to the redemption center. But it's gotten to the point where it's just an absolute blessing for us. We're doing other things. We're having like little fundraisers here and there. We do have a larger fundraiser, which is Fairway, through Fairway. It's the shopping spree type of thing. Lately, the fundraisers have been really fizzling off, and I'm pretty sure that's because of the COVID pandemic, because it just seems like everything stopped. We couldn't do that for a while, but things are starting to pick up again. And we have people come and help us with. People come forward and say, hey, can I help you raise money? Let's do this. And we don't discourage people. We want people to come together. If they've got great ideas, let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. So but our can and bottle one is really it's a blessing. It is. It really is.
Yeah, that's impressive. I would never have guessed. I'm trying to picture the number of cans and bottles that it takes to add up to that kind of money.
You wouldn't believe it.
Your truck is getting a workout, that's for sure.
And that's another thing too. We need a new truck. So if anybody hears anything, let me know, because our truck's on its last wheel. So
write that down. Okay. And Sarah, thank you very much. Sarah just put the address for transitions in the chat. And again, those will also be available in the follow-up emails. So don't feel like you have to write those down if you don't have any pen or pencil and paper handy. Just questions or comments from anybody else?
Just a side note, in case anyone is just wondering what the DMC stands for. It stands for Divine Mercy of Christ. So it's a question we get asked sometimes, so we'll let you know what that is.
that's awesome.
I actually saw that on your website, and I had been assuming it was Des Moines County, and that was really cool to find that there. So
I was curious if you've been able to identify what's causing the homelessness in your communities. Is it lack of affordable housing? Is it newcomers to the area that don't have a place to live, lack of jobs? What kind of things, or do you know, is causing the situations you're seeing? And are they increasing or not?
Well, Mary, you would go first. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I see a lot of in this county is we have a lot of people that are on drugs or are addicted to some type of drug.
Yeah.
They lose their home, they lose their families, everything. And we've got a lot of that. We have a lot of people that are a lot of people just getting kicked out of their homes that don't have enough money. Mental issues is another thing I wanted to say, because we don't have anywhere for people to go. We had a couple of the different places closed down, so they're all walking the streets now. So that's a really huge problem here in Ottumwa. We have our housing in Ottumwa is horrible. Our housing situation is absolutely horrible. We have a few places here and there, but we need so much more affordable housing, and it's not happening. I'm seeing a lot of stuff happen here for larger, high scale costing apartments and stuff, but I'm not seeing stuff for people that can't afford that. And that is a really big issue here in this community. We need good housing and some place for people to go, and we don't have it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Burlington's facing the same situation. I think our biggest problem is probably affordable housing, followed, it's probably a three-way tie, to be honest with you. I haven't run the numbers, but affordable housing, the drug problem is awful, and then the mental health issues. And 9 times out of 10, somebody comes in presenting with all 3 of those issues. So I don't think I can separate one from the other, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think not a lot of people are aware that many people, not everyone, but many people have an image of homelessness as occurring in larger urban areas. And that's not the case at all. There's a lot of it. It's just as big of a problem, if not more so of a problem in rural areas. I think that there are much fewer resources. They tend to be further away, and a lot of people who really need those resources just don't have the transportation to access them. So that's kind of one of those truths that we would love to get out there to more and more people and make them more aware of it. I'm looking around to see if anybody else. I guess we have a question. Craig, I know you mentioned that you were Catholic, and so somebody wanted to know about what parish you were part of in Burlington.
Burlington only has one parish now. It's Divine Mercy Parish.
Okay. Sorry, I should have said Burlington area. I wasn't assuming you lived there, so sorry.
No, a lot of people still don't probably know that all the parishes merged here, so there's really only the one now. But Divine Mercy. I'm also in the Knights of Columbus and other organizations.
And Mary Margaret, is there a church that you're affiliated with in Ottumwa? And
actually, both of them. St. Mary's. We were going there for a while, and then I had to switch back over. I originally started at St. Pat's. Grew up in St. Pat's, went to St. Mary's for about 5-6 years, and then I'm back at St. Pat's again because my mom has Parkinson's, so I'm staying with her to help her, and that's her church, so that way I can get her to her church. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I just kind of bounce around.
It's okay. It sounds like you go where you're needed. So. Any other questions from anybody else in the audience? Questions or comments? Personal experiences that you wanted to share?
I just say I have a comment about looking at the needs around this whole state, actually this whole country, with the lack of affordable housing. And I'm really frustrated with the COVID money that's come into this state, that we don't seem to recognize what the biggest need is, and that's affordable housing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement more. One of my bigger frustrations has been the use of COVID money. I think it could go to some more effective places.
Yeah,
absolutely. We've had some problems with that too here in Ottumwa. We had a big chunk of COVID money come down here, and they asked the public what they would like to see it go to, some of it to go to help. And of course we had, I guess, tons of people called our city and about our shelter and stuff. And I think pretty much what it sounds like to me is it's going for some kind of sports complex. And it's like, man, we could have used a little bit of that money. That could have really helped us to get on our feet, but it's kind of sad. And plus all these COVID relief programs that came over the last year or so, we were not able to get any of that money, even though we could have used it, because all of our people are volunteers. They were expecting, one of the stipulations was that you had to have people that were being paid to work there, and all of us are volunteers. So we weren't able to qualify for that money.
Yeah, housing is so linked to so many factors that impact the health and well-being of families, education, work, mental health, just everything can link back into to housing. So it's one of those really important needs that kind of has to be met in order for the rest of the help to flow in and make an impact. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions in the chat, or last chance for anybody else who wanted to say something, or. Okay, well, once again, Sarah, Mary, Margaret, Craig, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very, very, very important work to share with us and to make us more aware, not only of what you're doing, but how you did it. I'm hoping maybe it'll inspire somebody else when they see an unmet need in their community.
Can I mention one other thing?
Mhm.
Since I started this ministry, God has never let us down.
Can you slide a little closer to the microphone, Craig? There you go.
Since we started this ministry, God has never let us down. Every time we think we're against the wall, something comes through the door. And, you know, we find very often that if we're fighting a specific need, we'll have to put it out on the internet, and somebody will just come in and actually have it in hand. And so if you're wanting an experience like that, this is well worth the effort.
Oh, most definitely. Best partner to have in the world, God. So what is this? If God is for us, who can be against us? So well, I also want to thank everybody who's been here listening today, and to remind you that we will send information out in a follow-up email. If you are interested in joining us next month on March 3rd, Tom Chapman of the Iowa Catholic Conference is going to be with us to talk about some of the different legislative priorities for the Iowa bishops as well as the US bishops. That might be a good opportunity to hear if there's anything going on housing in the legislature, so that we have an opportunity to weigh in on it. So thanks again for being here, and stay warm and enjoy the rest of your week.